Hello again, gamers. Welcome back to the Board Game Captain. I am here at Gen Con 2021, and I am in the Czech Games Edition, the CGE room, and I'm here with Rachel, and she's going to tell us all about the new edition of Galaxy Trucker, which we have out in front of us here. Hello, Rachel.
Hello, how are you?
Good, thank you very much for having me.
Absolutely.
So, now there's been a lot of buzz about the new edition of Galaxy Trucker. I have to confess, I did not play the original.
That is okay. I won't tell.
So can you show us how to play Galaxy Trucker?
Yeah, so in a nutshell, Galaxy Trucker is a absolutely ridiculous and bonkers 2 to 4 player game where you're going to be building spaceships in real time. All of us at the table are astronauts who've been hired by a corporation incorporated to ship goods across the galaxy. But due to budget cuts, we're going to have to make our own ships out of the stuff we have out back. Things might not be quite up to code.
Very cool.
It's a very goofy game. We're going to build a ship, and then we're going to send it out into space and watch it slowly get blown to bits. So the meat of Galaxy Trucker is this real-time shipbuilding phase. When you start, we're all going to flip over this timer once, and everyone's going to take their designated hand, put it into this giant pile of flipped upside down components. You're going to grab one, you're going to look at it, you're going to bring it over your board, you're going to look at it, say, do I want this piece or not? And if you do, you're going to weld it onto your ship somewhere like that. Here, I can give you a board so you can look at it. So you've got like a blueprint in front of you.
So like, is this a rocket?
So that is an engine. I'll show you all the pieces in a second. You're going to start with one cabin of your color. Every cabin gets 2 astronauts, which is good because you need at least 1 to fly your ship. And you're going to basically be building out from the center. There are several rules about how to build your ship, but before we get to that, if you decide you don't want the piece you picked up, you return it to the pile face up. So everyone else can see that piece. If that was exactly what I was looking for, oh great, now it's mine. And this is all going on at once. So you can only do one at a time. You look, you either decide to place it, or you return it face up.
So like I place it, that would be legal because it's adjacent to a piece that's already there, right?
That's legal, yes, that's good. That's how you have to be contiguous. You can't just, place something out there. They have to all be connected, and that's where the kind of spatial puzzle of Galaxy Trucker comes in. So there's a handful of rules about how to build a legal ship. So the first thing we'll talk about are connectors. There are 3 different types of connectors in Galaxy Trucker, and you see these like pipes here, that's what I'm talking about. So there's single connectors, which are just one pipe, and single connectors go to other single connectors like that. There are double connectors, which have 2 pipes like this. And they go to other double connectors like that. And then the third type is the universal connector, which is what we all have starting on our
Because it could go single or double.
And that can go to single or double or other universal connectors. So these are very helpful in making your ship flexible.
Seems like a waste to put a universal to universal.
It does, yeah. But if you're in a pinch, you can do that.
Fair enough.
Couple of other rules. You can never have a connector on the smooth side of another piece. It all has to fit together in one big puzzle. You can have exposed connectors that are like this on the outside of your ship, like that. It just makes you more vulnerable to crap that's going to happen to you out in space.
Because people could board you?
No, because they could get blown up. That indicates basically a not very well-built ship. You've got pieces kind of hanging out the side, which means when asteroids come, you're going to be more vulnerable to projectiles and stuff. So as much as possible, you want to keep it nice and tidy, but it's real time. And everyone else is going, and that's where this timer comes in. So depending on the round you're playing in, there's a couple different levels you can play. You have a different amount of time to build your ship. So this is the level 1 flight board. We're building level 1 ships.
How long is the timer?
So I believe it's 90 or 100 seconds.
100 seconds.
I believe it's 100 seconds. But the cool thing is, when we start the game, I put the timer on the starting spot, or right here. You flip it over once, great. We're all building. When that runs out, anyone at any time flips it again. And you're going to have to do a total of 3 flips.
So you don't have to watch the timer then?
You don't have to. Whenever you feel like it, you flip the timer. And that sounds weird, but the reason you do that is that, you're shortening the amount of time that you have, but you're also shortening everyone else's time. So you want to pay attention. If you think you're ahead of everyone else, you're going to flip it. Because you think you're doing all right to put the time pressure on other people. Or if your ship is not going so great, you might flip it anyways and not give anyone else the time to build a better ship than what you've managed to cobble together. And it makes it really dynamic. So every time you play Galaxy Trucker, you're going to have a different amount of time to build your ship. Because it depends on who you're playing with and how much time they give themselves and each other. So very different experiences. If you're playing with a very chill group, you might have several minutes. If you're playing with a really aggressive group, you might just have the 300 seconds. People might be going really aggressively for the timer.
When it runs out the second time, is it basically up to someone to notice and tell everyone, hey? Like could it be out for a while?
It could be out for a while.
But then someone has to enforce it and say,
no one has to enforce it. Basically, it starts here, we flip it once.
Okay.
When that runs out, we flip it again.
Okay.
When that runs out, we flip it one more time, and when it's done on the final flip, that's the end of building.
But again, if nobody notices, it's fine because someone has to actually notice and say,
Correct.
FYI, we're done.
We're done.
Everybody stop.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I like that someone doesn't have to watch the sand timer.
Yeah.
That is really good. I do like that. Very cool.
Yeah.
So go on.
Oh, go ahead.
Oh, no.
Sure.
You go right ahead.
I'll just briefly show you some of the components that you've got.
Yes.
So we each start with a cabin in our color. As I mentioned, cabins get 2 astronauts.
Yes.
You're also going to want more cabins than that because there's going to be instances out in space. Once we're done building our ships, we're going to go through adventure cards to see what happens to us out in space.
Okay.
And there are opportunities to, lose 3 of your astronauts to have them go to a planet and collect resources, and that gets you money. So you're going to want at least 3 astronauts to send away.
Okay.
So that's where more cabins come in. These are just generic cabins that you find in here. You want as many of these as possible, typically.
So you can get more crew.
Correct. Yeah. Let's see. Next thing. These are cargo holds. Cargo comes in the form of these little cubes here.
Okay.
Each flight, you'll see how much each cube sells for. You'll find those at planets and stuff like this planet. If you dock on it, you get 2 green cubes or something, and you need a place to put them on your ship.
So you do a bit of pick up and deliver then with
Yes.
that?
Yes.
Okay.
So if I had that on my ship, I could put those 2 green cubes there. And
Nice.
then if that piece makes it to the end of the flight, I get to cash that in for money. But if this piece gets blown off before I finish my flight, not so great.
Yeah, I imagine.
There's special cargo components. These can hold red cargo, which is like radioactive, hazardous material.
Oh.
Red cargo has to go in these special red containers. So that's another thing you got to keep in mind.
Okay.
You've got lasers, because there's some bad guys out in space, and you need to be able to defend yourself. Lasers are really cool.
I have a tendency to run into space pirates in all these games. Yeah.
Yeah. So lasers can, they're most effective when they're pointing forward, but they can be facing sideways.
Oh.
The only rule about them is there can never be another component directly in front of it.
Because it would block the shot.
Exactly.
Yeah, makes sense.
It's all, there's several rules for how to build in Galaxy Trucker, but they're all logical. Like
It's intuitive.
Yeah, these are engines, and they have to point backwards.
Yeah, I instinctively was like, oh yeah, that's intuitive. That engine should be there,
And
obviously.
it's basically a lot of that. There are, these are battery components. These are used to power anything that's got this little green bit on it. Those are double the strength of these, but you need a battery in order to use them.
So
there's
now
a lot of things to think about.
They don't need to be adjacent to it, but they got to connect
Correct.
to the pipes.
So yeah, when you're done building your ship, if you have that piece on your ship, we're going to give you 2 battery tokens.
Okay.
And whenever you want to use this double engine, you spend a battery to use it, and it doesn't regenerate. So you have to strategically use, when am I going to spend my batteries out in space, and hope that I have enough batteries to get me through what I need to do.
Can you recharge it later?
You cannot.
You cannot?
You cannot.
So you'd have to replace it at some point? Or?
No, the flights are pretty short. There's only like 8 or 10 cards in a flight. So you just go. Once you've built your ship, the rest of the game is the flight phase. Okay. And that's it. You never.
So is each game one build and one flight?
Yeah. So that's actually one of the big changes between this edition and the original.
Oh.
So you'll see that there are 3 different types of ships you can build. There's this level 1 ship, there's this level 2 ship, and then the best part about it, your level 3 ship.
Wow,
which is so fun to build. It's so fun.
So is this like selecting the difficulty?
Yes, exactly. So the original game, the base game of Galaxy Trucker would be you'd play all 3 ships sequentially. Oh. And that would take you about an hour and a half depending on how many people you have. Okay. And with this version, we designed it so that you can still do that. Okay. And we call it the Transgalactic Trek if you want to play all 3 boards. Okay. But it's designed to just pick one level, play it as if it were a difficulty level. So you can play just half an hour of Galaxy Trucker, and the game is built to support that.
Half an hour? That's very quick.
Yeah, it's pretty quick.
Wow, awesome.
Yeah.
What else is, what other differences, for those who have played the first edition, because I did not.
Sure.
But for those who have and are watching this, what are the other differences from first edition to the new edition?
Sure. So the first thing you'll notice is this cover. This cover is drastically different than the original. It's much brighter, goofier, it's more representative of the wacky, silly game you're going to play. So we've done a complete graphical overhaul. We've cut the price in half. It used to be $60, now it's $29.95. And as I mentioned, the playtime is shorter. Other things, this is completely different from the original. we used to have 2 separate pieces of chipboard that everyone needed, and we've designed these like folding boards now that just streamline the whole thing. And if you're super into the original, you love playing the game sequentially with like your level 2 flight, your level 1, 2, and 3 flights, we have actually added some more gameplay to that.
Okay.
So, because you know Vlad, he would never publish something and not put more into it.
Yes.
So, if you get this edition, you get what we call title tiles,
okay.
which you use when you play the 3 flights sequentially.
Okay.
And these look simple, but they're awesome. I love the original Galaxy Trucker, and these add such a fun dimension to it. So, these are basically tiles that represent your reputation as a Galaxy Trucker. What kind of trucker are you?
Okay.
And so when you start the game, you lay out a certain number of these depending on how many players you have.
Okay.
You're all going to build your ships, you're going to go out into space, you're going to do the flight section, and at the end of the round, you're going to see who did best in whatever categories you have.
So they're like achievements?
Yeah, they're like achievements.
Okay.
The cool thing about them, though, is that once you get an achievement, it's yours, and you're going to try to defend your title for the next 2 to 3 flights. And it adds a really cool, like, almost narrative through line. Because you completely scrap your ship every time and build a new ship, it can feel kind of choppy, because you can build your ships totally differently, and there wasn't any real through line. And this says, man, if I got this title the first flight, I have to continue to build my ship like this to get the points that you get for defending your titles.
Excellent.
Yeah.
That is really cool.
And some of these are really clever. Like this one's pretty straightforward. This is like the person who has the most component parts that have at least one cargo in them at the end of the flight. This one's really cute. This one is the person who has the most cabins with a view. So cabins that like look out onto space and there's nothing obstructing them.
Okay.
So they're really they add an extra spatial puzzle for how you build your ship.
I love the illustration on
Isn't
this.
that beautiful?
That is adorable.
I love it.
It's great.
And it also incentivizes you, if you're a seasoned Galaxy Trucker player, to build your ship in weird ways that you otherwise, there's no reason to do that.
That is really cool.
Yeah.
How many of these are there in the set?
I believe there's like 7 or 8.
Oh, okay. So you get some good variety.
Yeah,
between
good variety.
games.
Don't quote me on that number, but there's a lot.
Because they'll give you lots of different combinations of achievements to be out there.
Absolutely.
Are there any other differences between the first and second edition?
Those are the big ones that I can think of off the top of my head. The structural changes to the board. If you're familiar with the original, we used to just have one flight board that had all the information for all 3 flights. And one of our goals with this relaunch is to make this game more approachable and accessible. So we've split it up into every individual flight has its own board. So if you're a new player, you're not going to see all this information you need for the 3rd flight. You're just going to have only the information that you need. That's been a big kind of theme with this relaunch, is that we want people who are just getting into the hobby now to be able to experience a classic in a more approachable way.
Very cool.
So we've kind of broken up the information so you're not overwhelmed when you open up that rule book.
I gotta say, I really appreciate that kind of mentality because the biggest thing to keeping our hobby thriving is getting new people into the hobby. So I love that. That's fantastic. Can we see some of the events that could happen to you while you're out on your flight? I'm curious about, are they kind of storyline, or are they sort of just like conflicts, or what do we do?
There's no real story to it. It's more just, a random sequence of events, but they are really interesting. So this is a meteor swarm.
Okay.
So you'll see there's big meteors and small meteors, and it represented on the flight board tells you how you can avoid those. And you'll also see that they're directional. These big meteors are coming this way at you, and the little ones are coming this way. So when we draw this card, someone's going to roll 2 die, and that's going to tell you which column this big one is coming at you from.
Oh, so 4.
Yeah. So if you had a component, you're fine because I missed you. But in the bigger flights, 4 is not going to miss you. And so that's partly how the difficulty ramps up. You're less likely to be missed by rolls as you get up to these bigger boards.
Indeed.
And then we've also got, let's see, planets. This is an opportunity. So once you're out in space, depending on who finished their ship first, you're going to be on this flight tracker in some sort of like racing order, basically.
Okay.
And when you get to a card like planets, the person in the front gets to pick which planet they want to go to first.
Oh.
And so there's an incentive to make your ship not only strong but fast, and also to finish your building fast.
And this is the cargo you can pick up there.
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah, so if I was in first, I would say, okay, I want to go to this planet. I would take my 2 yellow.
Right.
You would say, oh, well, I want to go to this one. And then maybe the third person decides to pass, because if you decide to use this card, you lose 3 flight days, which means I would hop back 1, 2, 3. So there's a tug and pull.
That's the cost.
Yeah. So being first is generally good because you're the first person for opportunities like that, but also when bad guys come, you're the first person who's shot at.
Okay.
So you have to really balance, like my ship is fast, but if I can't defend myself, I'm going to have trouble out there in first place. So it can be strategic to kind of hang back a little bit and let someone else take the hits.
Because maybe if you don't need green, you just want to grab the next planet. You gotta want to get in front and, and take the lead.
Yeah, because if these two people went for it now, all of a sudden you're in front. And hopefully the next opportunity is better for you. And, the coolest part about this game that I haven't even talked about yet, when you get really good at Galaxy Trucker, there is a rule wherein the flight cards, the adventure deck that you're going to go through, you make that deck and you split it up into 3 piles.
Okay.
And during the building phase, if you want to, you can look at one of those piles and see the stuff that's coming towards you. You're losing building time, but you have the information of oh no, there's a pandemic coming. I shouldn't build my cabins right next to each other.
Wow.
Because I'm going to lose those astronauts.
That's actually, that could be very strategic to be able to literally, it's like planning instead of building.
Yeah. And there's always a 4th kind of secret stack that you add to keep some variety that no one can look at.
Okay.
But a good 3/4 of the stack you can look at. You might be losing out on good pieces, but you have that knowledge if that's worth it to you.
Very cool.
Yeah, there's actually one of my favorite things about Galaxy Trucker is that it is a real-time game. And a lot of times when I hear real-time, I'm like, okay, it's just fast and hectic, and that's the appeal of it. But it's very thinky. To build your ship properly, you have to really think about it, and to be in the headspace where you can also be thinking about the cards that are coming and building your ship properly.
Well, yeah, it's real time, but the timer doesn't really end each section of it. The timer ends, and then somebody has to choose to be like, oh, it's time to flip it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, and that's really cool. Yeah, you generally have more until someone is like, no, you don't have more time.
No,
to think
you
about
don't.
it.
Yeah, exactly.
You have more time to think on it. I love that. That's really cool.
Yeah.
So, is there anything else you would like to tell us about the new edition, the new release of Galaxy Trucker?
I think that's pretty much it. If you do buy this relaunch, you get a free QR code included in it.
Okay.
That when you scan it, it gives you the Rough Roads expansion app, which if you just want to have a really hard time, if you just want to make this game harder, that's what the Rough Roads expansion does. It generates cards that will just throw even more difficult stuff at you, which is really fun.
So does it replace the event decks?
It hasn't been released yet, so I haven't even tried it yet.
Oh, okay.
But I know that that's the concept behind it yet.
Very cool. Well, thank you so much for showing me Galaxy Trucker. When is this going to be out on retail?
It's out right now. It
now.
Released the Thursday of this Gen Con, so it should be available in your local game store right now.
So I'm gonna put a link to Czech Games Edition's internet store, so you can check it out there, or you can go to your friendly local game store and ask them to order it. This is the new edition of Galaxy Trucker by Vlada Schvatel. If you guys want to check it out, link in the description down below. This looks really cool. I can't wait to play a full game of it.
Yeah.
And until next time, game on.